All right, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and I've got better light than the video I made a couple hours ago overnight because I couldn't fall asleep. Um, this video we're going to discuss some Japanese Jiu-Jitsu techniques and combining Japanese Jiu-Jitsu techniques with Okinawan karate techniques and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu techniques to create a more holistic, an even more holistic approach to MMA and street self-defense. Uh, so One technique which Google AI says is legal in MMA is to soften up an arm for an eventual joint lock is to chop block the bicep. You can chop block either directly into the center of the bicep, or you can chop block a couple inches between the center of the bicep and the elbow. Both of those are nerve points that, when hit, deaden the arm for about 5 to 10 seconds. It varies from person to person, and it also depends how hard you actually end up hitting their arm. So suppose they throw a hook punch, you're going to chop block the bicep. All right. And then from there, you're going to joint lock their wrist. Now, joint locks are really interesting. There are there's three of the most basic joint locks that I like, are the first three that I ever learned in karate class a long time ago in 1992. Um, the first is the front wrist lock, which you're just going to grab across all four fingers and uh, compress backwards. But allow me to explain a nuance of joint locks. You don't just want to compress and you don't just want to twist. You want to both compress and twist, because either or will only give you a certain effect, but doing both simultaneously will pretty much double the effectiveness. All right. So that's the front wrist lock. Then there's a full wrist lock in which you have the opponent's arm like this, and you're going to press back on these knuckles right here. You're going to compress, and of course you're going to twist. Both compress and twist, and it's going to go against their bicep, but don't let their fingers rest on their bicep. You're going to hyperextend the elbow beyond the bicep, so the elbow comes in, the wrist goes out. You compress the wrist and twist the wrist all at once. That is the full wrist lock. The reverse wrist lock is the opposite of the full wrist lock. And again, you're going to both compress and twist. And you're going to preferably keep the elbow straight on this one, because we can go into an arm bar from here. We can go into several different types of arm bars from here. All right. So once we know those three wrist locks, we're ready to start putting together the parts of the full arm bar, which I want to teach on this video. So another lock is, as I explained in the other video, there's a pressure point back here between your metatarsals, beyond that patty piece of muscle that allows your opposable thumb to work. All right, not up here where the web of your hand is. That's no nerve tissue there, so it doesn't hurt. You want to get behind that muscle, but between the two bones, and squeeze with your index finger and your thumb, and that will help set up your joint locks even more effectively. Okay. Matter of fact, you can just about tap somebody out with just this lock by itself. All right. Uh, so those are the pieces of the full arm bar. We're gonna pull guard, and see where my neck is in the video. I'm going to put my Let me see if this is. I'm going to put my foot against the person's neck right here. If I'm attacking their right arm with the lock, I'm going to brace off of the right side of their neck with my right foot. All right. I'm going to wrap my left leg around the arm that I'm attacking, and I'm going to hyperextend the elbow against the femur bone of my left leg while I'm joint locking and thumb locking the hand. All right. What's going to happen is their elbow is going to hyperextend insanely far, because you're going to have two hands and a foot fulcruming in opposite direction, and their collarbone could potentially be dislocated, and their elbow is going to hyperextend. Do not do this full power in the gym or dojo. All right. It's for practice in case you ever need it. This is banned in both MMA and submissions only competitions. But for life or death street self defense, you need to know this, because this is the classic break it's going to dislocate this elbow or else break their radius and ulnar right here. Okay, and it's also going to dislocate the collarbone. And when you're pulling guard in a street self-defense situation, since we're already breaking the competition rules anyway, we can kick the person in the face or kick the person on the side of the neck, or worst case scenario, don't do this except in a real life or death fight, but you can kick them in the throat if you absolutely need to before setting up the break. All right, so that is called the full arm bar. Those are all the components. Why did I teach you 3 different ways to wrist lock as part of the full arm bar? Because in a real street fight, you never know what type of punch your opponent leads with first, so you never know what you're going to have to parry and block and trap. So they may lead with an overhand haymaker, which most street fighters do. They may lead with the good overhand right, which comes down onto the jaw or onto the temple. They may lead with a regular hook punch. They may lead with a straight punch. They may lead with an uppercut. So, depending on which punch they lead with, that determines which one of those 3 wrist locks you're going to use. All right. And you can experiment with your partner to see which one works best for you, because the point is that you have 3 options so that you're not fidgeting with the hand trying to decide how it needs to face. You need to practice this until it's a reflex reaction to just automatically crank. And the other issue is you can kick them in the groin, you can knee strike them in the solar plexus or the liver while you're doing the crank, which I love doing the black belts in karate and in Japanese jiu-jitsu class, because it's the best way to beat second-degree black belts is to get a wrist lock on them and crank and kick and crank and kick and crank and kick and crank and kick. All right, they fall for it almost every time. All right. Um, so you're softening up the joint that you're attacking ahead of time with a strike to the biceps as part of your blocking regime. So you may parry and you may trap with one hand and strike the biceps with the other hand. What happens if they throw another punch? You just block the same thing. You strike the radius bone or the bicep with another block while you're setting up the lock with this hand. All right. Normally, to get a lock going, you need both hands on it, to be honest with you. But once you get it locked, you can maintain the lock with just one hand cranking. Okay. Especially if you're applying knee strikes or punches to the face or what have you. And you say, well, can't they punch me with this other hand? I never could hit my sensei, put it that way, when he was doing it to me. And he wasn't that much bigger than me in hindsight. I never could hit him with the free hand because when you crank on it, it hurts so bad that your whole body goes limp, to be honest to God with you. Your knees buckle and you have no desire to throw a punch. And even if you try to, it can be blocked by the free hand. Because I can put both hands back on the lock if I need to, or I can take this extra hand off and block again if I absolutely need to. See there? So for every objection that someone that doesn't believe in wrist locks has, I have a counter to it because I've done it thousands of times. All right. So one that for street self-defense, and the other one I wanted to cover is the vice or filter, which is called fish hooking in MMA. I did not realize this was considered a form of fish hooking. But in a street fight, you can absolutely strike that with a knife hand strike. All right. It's going to hit about as hard as a punch, but it's on a smaller surface area right here, no bigger than the tip of their nose. And all of that force, I can hit 1,000-pound punch, by the way. All of that force is literally going to be on less than 1 square inch. It's going to absolutely smash both of their top teeth out of their mouth, and it's going to hit them in a pressure point. That's a pressure point right there. That's going to cause their neck to go back like this. Which is going to set them up for, whatever. You can pass their standing guard because they're going to be in so much pain. You can easily pass their standing guard and get a rear naked choke on them to finish them off. Or you can put an arm bar of some sort or a leg lock of some sort on them from there because they're going to be in so much pain that it's going to be disorienting. All right, and then you can finish them off. All right, combining striking with submissions is another thing I covered here. So we use a submission to set up strikes. We use a strike to set up submissions. We use a strike like a block. We use a block like a strike. So any strike can be a block and any block can be a strike. And a double strike is almost always a disguised submission in kata. In traditional kata, this double punch that you see in the Cobra Kai video is actually a submission. We're punching to the groin and punching to the solar plexus. Then we're grabbing the person's shirt and throwing them over our shoulder in a judo throw almost. It comes out of Seiunchin Kata in Okinawan karate. It also comes out of Sanchin Kata in Okinawan karate. All right, I think I covered everything, all of my bases this time. This video is much better quality because I'm in better light, and also I didn't get disconnected. So I'm going to post this. What else did I want to cover? You can do a one-finger front choke. This is a minimum force deterrence to a fight situation. If they're in your face, they're throwing a punch at you, you can parry and just one-finger choke or two-finger choke into the trachea. You press back and then down, and it triggers a gag reflex and buckles both of their knees. All right. And they're going to realize that you can fight and they won't want anything of you. All right. That's one way to stop the fight from getting anywhere above level 2. You got 4 levels of self-defense. Deterrence, where nobody's thrown any punch yet. Minimum force. All right. Which, believe it or not, all UFC fights, except the ones involving accidental injuries, are only level 2. They're minimum force. All right. Anything above minimum force is a foul. Level 3 is destructive force, where we're actually breaking bones intentionally and ripping out eyeballs if we absolutely need to. And then level 4 is lethal force, which we only use if we're outnumbered and desperate to survive. All right. Do not ever use lethal force unless you are outnumbered, because a judge will hang you out to dry and will disbelieve your claim of being in self-defense. All right, that's the end of the video.